Hello, this is Tracy Crumbaugh. I am today is Thursday, April the 10th, 2025. I am a 1988 graduate of Marshall High School. I'm doing the oral history project for Diana Escarate. Um, I am going to just kind of go over this little slideshow here. Once an owl, always an owl. This is a picture of me, one of my senior pictures that I had taken at Lee's studio up on the square. Lee Bearden was the man who owned Lee's studio, and he was the one taking pictures back there. But now Tammy Kerskick owns it, and she is carrying on the tradition. So once an owl, always an owl. My childhood, I actually wasn't born in Marshall. I was born in Missouri, though. But I lived here, I think, from the age of one on. So I consider myself a Marshallite. I was born in 1970. My parents moved here when I was about 1 year old. I went all through school in Marshall. I attended school at Southeast Elementary, Benton Elementary, Beaker Middle School, and Marshall High School. Um, my teachers, I remember all of my teachers. One of the things that I liked about my childhood, we had neighborhood schools. So each school had kindergarten through fourth grade of the four elementaries that are here currently: Benton, Southeast, Northwest, and Eastwood. Obviously, Southeast is no longer being used. But each of those schools had kindergarten through fourth grade. So kindergarten, first and second, I went to Southeast. Third and fourth, I went to Benton because my parents bought a new house, and we moved. Um, I liked all the different ages in the schools. They were called neighborhood schools, and I like that. Um, One of the things that I like about Marshall as a kid was we knew our neighbors. We played after school and outside. We rode our bikes. I was always a very call myself a tomboy. I played in the dirt. I was a master mud pie maker. Um, Rode my bicycles, looked for crawdads in the creeks, and just we had just seemed like times were simpler. We played outside. We used our imagination a lot. We would ride our bikes when the sun went down, the street lights came on. We knew it was time to go home. There were no telephones. There was no Life 360. Our parents, trusted us. But again, we knew our neighbors. Our neighborhood was felt safe because everybody knew everybody, and we kind of kept an eye on each other. That's definitely not something like we have today. Most people don't even know their neighbors, let alone um, have them looking out for their children. But that's how I grew up. Um, I again was class of 1988. We were we were the era of big hair. The carpet was still green at the high school, and school spirit was really, really, really prevalent. I remember Spirit Days, everybody dressed up. If you didn't dress up, you were in the minority. Now it's kind of flip flopped. If you dress up, you're in the minority. So I, I just think back to the assemblies and how loud we would get, and it just was a different time. I thoroughly enjoyed my time at high school. I look back, obviously hindsight's 2020, but I look back now and I think those were really those were really good times for me. I wasn't popular by any means, but I knew everybody and I was friendly with everybody. But I had a core group of friends. My best friend was from third grade on, and we were best of friends. And we had like I said, a small group of friends that we hung out and did things together. Um, in high school, we didn't have all of the extracurriculars that you all have now. One of my favorite things about high school was Spanish class. I had Mrs. Brady Hoff, and I loved Spanish. It was kind of difficult for me at the beginning because I had to learn how to roll my R's. But I ended up and took all 4 years. In my senior year, I actually was an aide for Mrs. Brady Hoff, a cadet, and I just really thoroughly enjoyed being able to speak another language. And I've used that knowledge in every job that I've had since high school. I was in my freshman and sophomore year. I was in marching band, but I didn't play an instrument. I was a flag corps member. Um, I really like that. We in the fall, first semester I was in band. Second semester, both years I took PE, which I hated PE first hour, but that's back in the day when everybody had to shower in middle school and high school, and it just I hated that first hour. But anyway, I get off topic. Um, I also I loved going, doing band and stuff. But then I got older, I decided I want to kind of shift gears, and so I took yearbook my junior and senior year, and absolutely loved doing that. Obviously, we didn't have computers and we didn't do layouts and stuff on the computer like we do now with graphic design. That was back in the day when we had a photography class and the photography kids would take pictures. We would look at them on the negatives, and we would pick pictures for them to develop for us to put in the yearbook. We would cut everything and we would paste it on the page layouts with rubber cement. And I just remember learning how to do all that layout and just creating those, now what I cherish as memory books. So I loved that. I was in FTA, Future Teachers of America. I was in a club called Helping Hands or something like that. Um, I think back now and I think I wish I would have done so many things. One thing I wish I would have done was theater. But I actually was very shy in school. So um, after high school, I graduated and I was going to go to Warrensburg, to Central Missouri State University. It's not called that anymore, but I was going to go to college to be a teacher. And I had applied and everything was good. And then we found out what it was actually going to cost. Therein lied a huge problem for me. We didn't have all of the things like you have now. We didn't, have FAFSA and all the grants and all that kind of stuff. We just had scholarships, and then you paid. Um, and I found out quickly that I didn't have enough money. I didn't have any money. So I had to take a detour. And it's always difficult to go back to school after you take any time off, which I found, because my life took a lot of detours. And it's okay because that's my story. I actually, the year after I got out of high school, was hired by the school district to be a grant implementer. This is Cuisenaire math. And I worked with a couple of teachers who wrote a grant that allowed them to hire me to help them teach math using these Cuisenaire rods. So I worked with kindergarten through third grade students, and I absolutely loved it because I was going to go to school to be a teacher. So it fit perfectly with my life plans. And then something else happened, detour number two, which really threw me for a loop, was I met somebody and I became Mrs. Crumbaugh in 1989. So as you can imagine, my career or my college days didn't happen because I was married, and you buy a car and you do all the things, you need money for bills. But finally, I became a Missouri Valley Viking in 1999. I completed my bachelor's degree in 3 years. While working full time. I worked at La Crosse Lumber as the bookkeeper during the day, and I went to school at night. And then it got to where I couldn't do that anymore, so I went to work at the Hab Center from 10 at night to 6 in the morning for about the last year and a half of my bachelor's degree. Then graduation came. That was a very happy day. I went to school with a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old. yeah, 99, no, 7-year old and a 1-year old. And my boys saw me working hard. They saw me studying. This was before we had computers. And, we would write all of our assignments. And when we wrote papers, we would have to sit down and type them after we wrote them. And it was just a very different time. But my kids saw me hustle and they saw me work hard. And this is a picture from my graduation day in 2002. And those are my joys of my life, my boys. I then got my first job and I taught a year, and then I went and got my master's degree in elementary administration through William Woods. Got that in 2005. One of the things that I kind of is like a thing to me is it's never too late. You can do anything you want it to happen. The rhinoceros is kind of like a spirit animal for me, or just a symbolism of strength and determination. If you want something, put your head down, forge through it, never stop growing. If you want something, get it. I I think that's just kind of my personality, but there's a lot of people that, you know, don't try things because they're scared. And it is scary, but if you want something, you will go for it. Some of the other things that I wanted to talk about was just, high school years. Outside of high school, I remember my friends, we kept the strip hot. The strip was Odell Street. We would cruise Friday night, Saturday night. I was never, I didn't go to parties and any, thing like that. My friends and I, we would party, and you would meet the same people on the road so much that I literally could tell you who it was by their license plate number. We would go up and down Odell Street and turn around down in the old Jim's IGA parking lot, and go down Odell around the square. We could even sit on the square and visit with our friends. And, the square, when I was a kid, the square was busy. It had, a lot of stores. We didn't have Walmart. We had grocery stores, and then we had stores where you go to get household goods and that kind of stuff. On the other side of Jim's IGA Mall, there was a store called Sam's. And in between there was like a beauty shop and a movie rental place, and like I think it was a clothing store. I'm not sure. Several different things there in the middle that connected those two big anchor buildings. So I remember Saturdays I'd be with my grandparents because my parents both worked, and my mom would get me a Paradise Donut shop on Odell Street, where El País, the Little Red Wagon, is at now. And then I'd go to my grandma's, and my grandma and my aunt and we would go uptown and we'd go to the grocery store, and we would do our Saturday shopping. And it was always fun, a little outing. We didn't have internet. We didn't, if we wanted something we couldn't find here, we either had to go out of town for it or we had to order it through catalogs. And like it just was a different time, but it was a good time. Um, Things that I remember as far as historical significance. I remember in 1976 we were celebrating the country's bicentennial year, and I remember Marshall had a huge parade to celebrate, and I remember it because my mom owned a beauty shop, and we had a float in the parade where we all were dressed up in like colonial clothing, and my mom and the other hairstylists in her salon were like colonial hairstylists. And I remember I had the dress and the bonnet and all that stuff. It was a huge deal. Another thing I remember was the spaceship Challenger when it blew up with the teacher on it, Krista McAuliffe. I was actually on the east side of the island walking to go do something, and the media center to the left there, where those glass windows are at now, had the TVs on. And I remember I was walking and I looked over, and it had just lifted off, and then I was watching and it blew up in the sky. I remember 9/11 vividly. That was the year that I was doing clinicals at Northwest with fourth graders with Mrs. Criswell. And I remember thinking I didn't know what was happening because I didn't know where World Trade Center was. Like I said, this was in the early years of internet, and I didn't know what it was, but we certainly soon learned what it was. Um, I remember the days after where there was no streaks in the sky, where airplanes were going over. I remember the patriotism. I remember the country uniting. I've never experienced anything like that before, and I really wish we could get back to that. But I don't want a catastrophe or disaster to happen for us to get there. Um, I think one of the things that I want to also leave you with is the importance of giving back to your community. As I've gotten older, I understand that if our town is to be vibrant and thriving again, we need to give back. And we can do that with our time and our talents. I've been on the Marshall Public Library board. I was on there for 6 years. Right now, I'm the Marshall High School Alumni Association president and member, and I am working with a great group of people, but we need more people to make lighter work of all the things we have to do. We're hosting the second Return to the Roost event in June 13th and 14th on the square, and it's a phenomenal weekend. People come back home. We have graduates from the pre 1950s all the way to current who come together, who socialize, who reminisce, and it takes a lot of work to put that on there, to put that event on. And it would be wonderful if we had people that would give back. You know, a lot of people can't wait to get out of Marshall, and I understand it's your story, it's your path. Don't ever forget where you come from, and don't give up on Marshall. Give back to Marshall. It's even if you don't live here, find a way that you can help your hometown thrive. Nobody wants to see their hometown, dry up and go by the wayside. Um, I appreciate Deanna asking me to do this project. It brought back a lot of memories, and it was kind of nice to see her reaction to the artifacts that I brought. Things that I never thought anybody would be interested in, and she found them very interesting. So I hope this gives you a glimpse into my life, my story. It's a journey. Make the best of it. And again, don't give up on Marshall. Give back.